So it's official that we're in a recession, and while they haven't actually called it, I think the signs are as clear as they could ever be. And I think that we've been in this recession for a couple of weeks. Although it may not seem like we are, things are progressively getting worse and worse and worse. And so the question is, how do you actually profit in a recession? And I'm going to break down in this video in a very simple way how you can profit and how you can come out on the winning side. But before we get there, the other question that you didn't ask, but I'm also still going to answer it, is how do you actually survive in a recession? And that is probably a more important question. And unfortunately, I'm going to be completely honest with you. If you have not been planning for this recession, then at this point in time, it may be a bit too late. But if you actually start today, you still may be able to survive. You may get lucky, and you may be able to come out of this recession without getting completely minced. Now, the first thing is this. You need to get a job. Now, if you currently have a job, you still may not be safe. You're not safe because in a recession, the economy slows down, and one of the main events that happens in a recession is that companies usually have mass layoffs. And so they go down to like a skeleton-like structure. And so even though you may have a job right now, your job could be at risk, especially with the entire quiet quitting that has been taking over the internet. So if you're one of these people who is practicing quiet quitting, then that's great, that's good for you. You get the perfect work-life balance. But the downside to that is that your employer is going to catch on to this, and they're going to know that you've quiet quit. And even though you may be saying, well, Eann, I still show up to work on time, I'm quiet quitting, but I'm very good at my job. I'm also doing my job to the best of my abilities. I'm just not going above and beyond for that job, that's all. And that's fine, that's good for you. But there's gonna be other employees at your company, probably your coworkers, who are doing the very same thing. And they're trying to go above and beyond because they have some motive. And this could be them wanting either like recognition from the boss or recognition from the company, or maybe they're trying to get a promotion and so they're working extra hard, or they're going above and beyond because they want this promotion or they want a salary increase. And so they're putting in all the extra hours. And so when the company is faced with the decision of having to cut people in this recession, they're not going to fire the people that have been doing their jobs plus doing a lot more without asking for extra pay, right? They're going to fire you. They're going to say, well, Eann is a good employee, but he does his job, but Eann also leaves as soon as work is over. And Eann never gives the company any extra time, and we're just getting exactly what we're paying for. But instead, we're going to go ahead and keep Johnny. We're going to fire Eann, and we're going to keep Johnny on the team because Johnny here is paid the same amount as Eann, but Johnny is doing a lot more work for the same pay. So again, let's fire Eann and let's keep Johnny, and that way we can pay the same amount of money and get the same work done, if not more. And so basically, if you're a quiet quitter, then in this recession, your job could be at risk, even though you're a good employee and you do what you're supposed to do, and you're doing what you're actually paid to do, even if you're not slacking off. Now, the second part to this is that you could still lose your job, even if you work extra hard, and this is going to be for people that are working in unskilled positions or positions where it's either just like entry level or where just about anyone could do your job. So usually when these companies are doing layoffs, they usually lay off the employees that are easy to hire first. And so it's easier to fire unskilled workers because when the recession is over, or when the company thinks that they can afford to have these employees, they'll have little to no problem hiring for these positions. But with that said, it's a lot harder to find, let's say, a CFO with 30 years of experience that's trustworthy, that's not going to steal the company's money. So these are two things that you need to look out for even if you have a job. And if you don't have a job and you're watching this video, then you need to get a job ASAP. But if you have a job, then these are still two things that you need to look out for. And so one, if you're quiet quitting, you need to start looking at a backup plan, whether it's a backup job or a side hustle, side gig, or something. So if your employer decides that they're going to actually lay you off and get rid of you, you're not just completely struck out of the blue and you didn't actually not expect this, right? So you want to have a plan. And so if you're an unskilled worker or you have a job where just about anyone can do it, and you may be one of the first people to get let go in this recession, then you also want to do the same thing. You want to start thinking about a backup plan, something else that you could be doing. Probably you want to latch on to another job right now, so you have two jobs. That way, if you lose one, you still have some income. Or maybe it's not too late for you to go learn some skill, and then you have the option of doing multiple things if you get laid off. but this is what you need to be doing. Now, surviving the recession entails a lot more. So the next thing that you're going to need to survive this recession is you need to lower your cost of living. And lowering your cost of living basically means that you are spending less off your income. So things like credit card debt, loans, borrowing money, you want to avoid that stuff. And by the way, it may sound good that you got a loan 2 years ago when you got like a really good interest rate, or you have some debt and now it seems as if you're just paying pennies compared to what you would have been paying if you took that loan out today. But if you get laid off in a recession, you want to have your expenses as low as possible so you don't actually get kicked out on the street. And that way, no matter how small of an income you have, you can actually take care of yourself until this recession passes. Now, one thing that happens in the recession is that people who weren't financially well off before the recession, they tend to end up being worse off after the recession. And so people who were financially well before the recession, they end up being better off financially after the recession. And so if you're not already a millionaire and you haven't already achieved financial freedom, then you still want to keep your expenses as low as possible so that if you lose your job, you don't have this crazy high maintenance lifestyle to maintain, which could be like an expensive car, an expensive apartment, or having a bunch of loans or just a lot of debt to weigh you down, especially if this debt was for stuff that wasn't really important. So that's the next thing that you need to do. You've got to find a way to lower expenses and get your expenses as low as possible in preparation for this recession. And so the final thing that I want to say about surviving the recession is padding up your emergency fund. And so it's always recommended that you have at least 3 to 6 months off expenses saved up. But if you want to overkill, just to be sure, you could go up to 12 months, or even if not, with inflation and everything, you may want to just revise your emergency fund. And so if you knew that you needed $1,000 to survive per month 2 years ago and you had an emergency fund of, let's say, $3,000, then you may want to revisit that emergency fund, because although it would cost you, or would have cost you, $1,000 to survive 2 years ago, now it's going to cost you $1,300 or $1,400. So you may want to revise your emergency fund and make the adjustments and add some extra money on this emergency fund, just in case your cost of living has increased because of current inflation and also more inflation to come. Now, with that said, let's talk about profiting from the recession. And I know you guys didn't come here for your daily dose of doom and gloom, but I'm going to be completely honest. And so if you haven't already been planning for this recession, or if you weren't prepared, and if you aren't prepared right now, then the chances of you profiting from this recession are going to be really slim. You may just be able to just survive during the recession if you weren't prepared by now. So a couple of things will happen in the recession, and we talked about one, which is a loss of jobs, and they're going to be mass layoffs. And so the next thing is that people are not going to want to spend money anymore. Because of this and the Fed increasing interest rates, eventually the cost of certain goods, services, and products are going to go back down. So for example, housing. Hopefully home prices will kind of plateau soon and then they'll start to go down. And then this will be the same for a bunch of other things. So for example, the stock market is also going to be going down because there's an economic slowdown and interest rates are going up, and some businesses may even go on sale. And so the people who have already been prepared for this recession, which includes the wealthy, are going to be able to take advantage of assets because they are going to be on a discount. Now, the way to profit here is really simple. Basically, you just want to have cash. You want to have cash so you can actually buy whatever you want at a discount in this recession. And so, for example, the stock market is going down and it keeps going down. And so you could buy stocks, you could buy ETFs and all that stuff at a discount, and then you can make a lot of money. But you can only do that if you have the cash. And the same thing goes for like real estate. Prices could decline over the next 2 to 3 years by 30 or 40%. And people who are prepared are going to be able to buy at a discount and benefit from all the appreciation when we exit this recession. Again, like I said before, unfortunately, this is the truth. If you weren't already prepared by now, then the chances of you actually profiting from this recession are going to be very slim unless you have a really high income or you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars every single month, and you can quickly come up on some money. Now, the only thing that I can say here is that if you do have some money or you're working on getting some money right now so that you can actually profit from the recession, you need to have a clear idea of what angle you're going to be approaching from. So for example, if you've got like a couple $100,000 or even millions, then you may want to look at assets like real estate, for example. And so you may want to wait until the market cools down and prices to go down for you actually to jump in and benefit from that. And then maybe if you're not a multi-millionaire and you have like 10, 20, 30, $100,000 in cash, then you may want to look at like the stock market, for example, because then in a recession, you could put this money in the stock market and you can make a decent profit when we exit this recession. And even if you have the same amount of money, you can also look at buying some smaller businesses that may be going on sale during this recession. So the main idea here is you want to have a clear path and you want to know exactly what asset classes you're going to be targeting in the recession if you want to profit. So if you take nothing else from this video, take these two things. Number one, to profit from the recession, you need to be in a position already with the capital or cash on hand that you can deploy into whatever assets you want to use. Now, secondly, if you're not in the position to do that, then you want to at least ensure that you can survive the recession by either one, finding a job, or secondly, finding a way to secure the job that you already have, or secure a backup plan so that if you lose your job, you don't lose all your income. So comment down below, let me know what your plan is for this recession. Are you simply trying to make it through and survive the recession? Or did you actually plan for it, and are you looking for opportunities to deploy cash where you can get a return and actually profit in this recession? Comment down below and let me know. So with that said, I hope this video helps someone who is either trying to survive or profit from the recession, especially if you haven't been taking this seriously all along. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. All the best, and I'll see you tomorrow in the next one.